This is a tutorial on one approach to course design called backward course design. Oftentimes when we set out to develop a course, we might start with some sort of outline using a template such as these provided by the Academy of Art. We might think about what we'll teach weeks 1, 2, and 3, starting at the beginning of the course and working our way towards the end. But if you've looked at a blank template like this, you may feel that it's a bit daunting actually, and it's hard to know where to start and where everything is going to actually end up for students by the end of the course. In backward design, instead of starting at the beginning of the course, you actually start at the end. And if you think of a course like a journey that you're on with your students, it actually makes sense to start at the end because that's the destination. That's where you want students to arrive by the end of your time together. So the first step is to think about your goals for students. What do you want them to know and understand and be able to do? What are the key skills you want them to come away with, the deep understandings that you hope that they'll achieve by the end of the course? Those are your goals. The second step is to consider a couple of major milestones. These are points along the journey that will allow students and allow you to assess their progress towards their goals. The major assessments that you plan for your course will depend, of course, and relate to what you're teaching. So if you're teaching a graphic design class, you may have a poster project. Or if you're teaching sculpture, obviously it would be a sculpture piece, or maybe a musical composition, possibly a painting, or even some classes will have writing assignments, major papers, or even exams. Or maybe some combination of all of these things as a portfolio. So with your goals and your major milestones or projects in mind, it becomes a lot easier to see how the path of this course will develop. And you can begin to think about all the things that you're gonna need to do in your course to prepare students for those major projects and to lead them to the goals. So for example, what are the lectures that you're going to put together? What are the demos that you're gonna do? What are the exercises and assignments that students will have to lead them to the point where they're able to do the major projects and to achieve the course goals. So let's look at an example of a specific course. Let's think about Dance 103, Beginning Tap Dance course. And so going from the backward design model, the first step would be to think really carefully about my goals for students. If I want them to get some beginning tap dance knowledge, um, it might be important to me that they can identify key influences in tap. You know, who are the major players in the history of tap? Um, I'm also interested in their ability to distinguish between various rhythms. That's very important, and to be able to move in time to those rhythms. And of course, they need to be able to perform all of the basic tap steps. So those are kind of my preliminary goals. Next, I want to think really carefully about a couple of projects that will show me that students are on their way to achieving those specific goals. So one idea is to do a presentation where students will analyze a dance video and identify the influences that they see in that video. That will show me that they are knowledgeable of key figures in dance and in tap specifically. Another project later on would be once they have some major knowledge under their belt, I can ask them to do a performance, maybe 2 solo routines, seeing that they can do the steps and seeing that they can do it in time. At this point, I can start to plan everything that's going to happen to lead students to that presentation and to that performance and ultimately to the goals of the course. Brainstorming can be really helpful at this stage. You want to start getting out all of the ideas you have about the things that you're going to cover. What are the topics that are going to need to be included in your course? I know I want to address all the steps. I know that which rhythms I'm going to cover. I start to identify who are these key influences that I've been thinking about. So once I've brainstormed the topics that I'm going to teach about and figured out kind of which are my demos, which are my lectures, what's the information that I'm going to present, then I can begin to think about some of the student activities that I want to bring into this course, some of the exercises and assignments or discussion topics that I think would be useful as students are learning about TAP. I can think about when it would be useful to incorporate critiques and what topics would be good to do a quiz on. So, for example, after I do a nice quick lecture on rhythm, then I want to bring students into that experience and have given them some listening exercises where they distinguish certain rhythms, or maybe have a clapping exercise where they clap and move their feet in time, right? So I'm beginning to plan ways that students will internalize the information that I am teaching as well. At this point, I've got most of my pieces together, at least an initial draft, and so I can start to sequence them and think about what are the specific things that I need to incorporate leading up to the presentation, for example. So because they're going to have to analyze a dance video for their presentation, and they're going to have to identify key figures or influences, I definitely need to build those into the first part of the course, those key people that they'll have to recognize. And steps are also going to be an important part of that project, so I want to make sure that they're beginning to learn not only the rhythms, but the steps. From here, I can actually drill down further and start developing a plan for a specific week. So in week 1, I'm looking at 3/4 and 4/4 time. I can begin to develop even a lesson plan. I can break that topic down further and know that I'm going to cover time signatures and counting. I know that I'm going to want students to practice listening and clapping, and perhaps I'll bring in a video for them to analyze. And for homework, they'll have to find some more examples of these particular rhythms in action. So I'm hoping that you can see there that I took the project, the presentation, and I broke it down into steps, and I considered, all of the content that would need to lead up to that. So that whole first part of the class is really about studying the basics and kind of being prepared for that analysis presentation. The second leg of the class is more about performance, and so at that point I would do the same thing and think about, what are the steps that they need to be practicing, and let's get those rhythms more into their body, and let's see them begin to do these drills in class and for each other, and maybe involve some critique and begin to hone their tap skills. So as I continued to plan my weeks based on my initial goals and then based on these specific projects, I think you can hopefully see how it's a strategic way to get students not only prepared for those major assessments, but also really to get the target at the end and meet those course learning goals. As you come up with your specific goals for your course, your endpoint, you want to be really mindful of where your course fits into the longer journey that students are on in your program. So it's a really important step to speak with your director to understand how your leg of the course fits into the entire major. And that will help you be sure that you're both preparing students for the next step and also following the prior course in a way that it makes logical sense on this progression. So after going through this entire brainstorming process of envisioning the end point of your course and coming up with your milestone projects and then conceiving of the path that will bring students to those points, You should be much more comfortable and ready to approach the course outline templates. As you go through the course design process, please know that there is support here through faculty development. We are here and at any stage of the process, from brainstorming through project development, through daily lesson planning, and outlining your course, we are available to support. So please do use that resource, and good luck with course design.